Good morning, guys. Let's talk a little bit about your system design. I would say half of you are well on your way and fully understand what is to be delivered to me. Then I have the handful of you that are struggling. Okay, here's some things. First of all, in this class, when you're struggling and you don't know, you should have been in my office. If you haven't been in, then you probably need to get in ASAP. That's because face to face, I can explain things a little better to you. Although I've had some people come in and I think you're still struggling. I think you're struggling and fighting against putting down and digging deep. So I'm going to give you an example. And I have pulled up on my other screen, designing your system. It's a link I have for you under design. And this is by Microsoft. So and it has a lot of things you're to consider. I think what you're fighting against is that, yes, you actually have to write these down. You can't just have them in your head floating around. You can't just be general. When you're designing, it's specifics. For example, let's say you're designing a small office upgrade. Okay, at this point, you would be telling me the computers, the operating system, and I don't mean I'm getting 4 new computers. What models are they? What do those things cost? What operating system, exactly what software, what it costs that would run on them? How are they connected? Are they connected fiber optically to the internet? Or are they using T1 or T3 to the internet? What type of router will you use and what speeds will it have on it? These are the specifics that go in the design. However, they don't go into actually setting up the router or setting up a modem. That's a type of implementation. And actually, I would want a more general implementation. We'll talk about implementation later. So, but you do need those specifics in it. What type of wireless printer? Will it work with Windows 10? If you're using Windows 10, you might find some of them only work with Windows 8 because they haven't upgraded to the Windows 10 operating system. Those are the specifics that go in a design. If you are using, you would tell how many computers, okay? If you're doing an app, you're going to have to give me a little layout, sketch something out about what this looks like, not only on the home page, but further on. So I need a sketch of how this is going to work. You can't just say, I'm going to design an app and here's the fields in it. You have to really think and look at and draw off what that app's going to look like. The same as if you're designing a new interface into a system. Maybe you've come up with something for inventory and it needs a better interface. Then I need to know what that screen's going to look like. Then I want to see how those fields feed into a database. So yeah, I'm going to want to know kind of what's in the database and the description, give a description of each field, and not only its name, but a description. And then I need the length of the field and what you expect to be entered in the field. Things you might add in the future need to be there. Every person in the system probably doesn't need the same access level. So that means different levels of access, and you detail those out and who gets what. I know you're not implementing this, but at this point, the design is deep. And so if you're including the project scope and all the previous deliverables, that's not the design. That doesn't count toward those pages of design. That's all the preliminary stuff that gets you into a design. Let's see what else you might need to do. Consider if it's going to work on all platforms. Okay, let's face it, your goal might be for something to work on any operating system, but the reality is you can design it that way, but when you get to implementation, you're going to have to back off and just pick one that it might get started on before it's released to others. For example, if you're deploying something in a business, maybe you deploy it on one computer at a time to make sure it works. If you're deploying something to use in a classroom, make sure you do one classroom at a time in implementation phase so that it gets all the bugs worked out. So that's a little bit on implementation, but things to think about. I'm sorry I'm saying so much. You have to detail these out. So those of you that are still turning in I have an app, or I have 4 new computers. Okay, that's nice. That was the preliminary. Now we're in to exactly what we're going to have, what kind of storage capacity we're going to have, things like that. Your communication should be above and beyond a tech person. Some of you have incorrect spelling, run-on sentences. Go to the writing center. You need help. I've repeatedly asked you, do not use personal pronouns, and maybe you don't know what those are. So you should never say I, we, like that. Take yourself out of it as much as possible. So instead of saying I will have at my home office, it is the home office will consist of. I will buy 5 new printers. 5 new printers will be purchased. You don't put I in it. You might say you're going to use a database administrator to set up a database, not I. I will not set up. The database administrator will. Now that might be you, but take the personal out of it. Some of you are really struggling with this. Let's see what else. Obviously, you should say the physical location. So even if your home is the physical location, you should say it's a home office or the small business office. And you might have to consider, does it have block walls like we do at the college, because that affects the Wi-Fi and the strength of the Wi-Fi that we have to say. If you need a website, you need to be searching domain names and where to set it up and what that costs and what's available. I hope this is helping get you started. If you need a server, what does that cost? How big should it be? Who will host it? Will you host it yourself, or are you going to use something on the cloud? If so, what kind of server software are you going to use? Again, you have to be in the details, and I think that's what some of you just really are afraid of. Don't be afraid of them. Address them. The more details that you give, the better and stronger your project will be, your project design. The project design is huge, so just know it should be huge. It should be very detailed. So those of you out there using bigger fonts, I'm on to you. Those of you that have changed from to a landscape from a portrait, go back to portrait landscape. I get all that. I know all the little things out there that you're doing to try to look better, but the proof is in the details. And I have some more things that I'm going to change up for the rest of the semester and try to take the focus off the grading and put it back on the content. I do grades to get you to do the work, but I think now you're at the point of I need to stress you need to be working on your content. Heads up again, you might be getting 100 on every portion so far, but that doesn't mean you'll get 100 on the final project. We'll talk about that in a subsequent video also. If you're expecting hundreds on every individual thing, you shouldn't be. You should be expecting lower grades. Sometimes I just give lower grades for the heck of it, just to make you think. Those have so little impact on your final grade. Again, focus on content. And I hope this helps.